Welcome back. This is John Locke, and today I'm not going to talk about SEO or marketing or web design. I'm not going to talk about any of those things. Some of the things that I'm going to say in today's video might be construed as political or controversial, so if that is not your cup of tea, go ahead and close out this video and just watch the next video, because today I have a few things that I feel like I need to say. And it's about to go down, so this is your last warning on this. Okay, now that that disclaimer is out of the way, I just feel that I should say this. You watch the news and you see a lot of things that really are unfair and they're unjust, and you know, they've been going on for a long time. They've been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. But right now, there seems to be kind of a climate in the U.S. for the past, 4 or 5 years. Maybe it's been longer than that. It's always been there, I mean, quite honestly. But there's things going on. And they're not fair. There are things that are not fair to certain segments of the population, like minorities and things like that. And what I want to talk about is accountability within our communities. When we're talking about web design, we're talking about marketing, we're talking about web development. And the reason why I bring this up is because I know there's a lot of people out there that are pretty famous people, more famous than I am, that are in, web design, marketing, stuff like this. And I know for a fact that they stand against these things, or they believe in their heart that these things are wrong. They look at things like racial injustice. They look at things, for example, like what's going on in Minneapolis. But there's lots of other things, police brutality, all these different things that go on, people getting, lynched in Georgia just for taking a jog. And, this has always been in our country, but I didn't realize it. Up until, every year as I get older, I realize that it's always been there. It's never really not been here. But what I want to talk about is accountability with people. Now, like I said, I know that there's some famous people out there, or, even not famous people, but they are scared to say anything. They're scared to get political. They're scared to say that these things are wrong, or to say like, hey man, I stand with these people who this violence is happening to, whether it's in Ferguson, whether it's in Minneapolis, whether it's in Georgia. It doesn't, really matter. But people are afraid to say that. And I don't know why, but it's really weird. And I know a lot of people don't like, they're afraid to get political because they're afraid that they're going to turn off some of their followers, or they're going to lose followers, or they're going to turn people off. But quite honestly, I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. If you don't believe in racial equality, then I don't want you as a follower. I don't want you as a subscriber. I really don't want you as a friend or a person in my life. And the reason why I feel that that's important to say at times, and to reiterate that, is because there are so many people who are afraid of, turning people off, or they're afraid of standing for something, or they're afraid of speaking out because they don't want to rock the boat. And when I say this, 100% of the time I am talking about white people. I'm talking about white men mostly. Also some white women that, they're just afraid to say that we stand with, other people where injustice is happening. And it really makes me sad. And the reason why I think it's important to say this, and, not everything that you put out there in the world, not every video or tweet or Facebook post has to be political, but I think it's important sometimes to reiterate that. And the reason why I say that is there are people that have a little bit of internet fame or marketing fame or web design fame, it's important to put these things out there, because the people that look up to you and that follow you, you know, from time to time, they might rethink their what they do. If they're like, you know, no, like, you know, this group over here, they're whatever it is, you know, prejudice against a group, prejudice against whoever it is. And there needs to be less of that. And when you have famous people that stand for something, it has an influence. I know for me, like, I didn't grow up in a place that was very racially diverse. It was mostly white people, some Hispanic people, not a lot of black people, not a lot of Asian people. That's where I grew up. And I didn't really experience anything different until I was in my later 20s and I moved to Sacramento. But, you know, people threw around racial epithets. I did too. And I realize now how fucked up it was to do that. But when everybody around you is doing it, you don't really think that there's anything wrong with that. And quite honestly, you know, is through things like entertainment, like films and music and things like that, that I began to see that maybe the way that I saw the world, it wasn't the, you know, undiluted truth. Because when I was in school, when I was in high school, and even in college, taking history and social studies and American history, I never heard about things like Black Wall Street in Tulsa that was burned to the ground in the 1920s. I never heard about people dropping bombs in Philadelphia on American citizens in 1985. And mind you, I was a freshman in high school when this happened, but this was not part of the news cycle. And, you know, I look at these things now. These are things that I've found out in the past few years that I didn't really know about. And I really have to question, like, why? Why have I never heard about these things? So this is why it's important. It's important to look at the world in a different way, because the way that you see the world, or the information that you've put into your brain, or the news sources or information sources that you get facts from or your information from, it might not be the full story. So again, I think it's important for people that have a little bit of fame, a little bit of juice, to stand up for things that are right, because it might make somebody that follows them say, like, hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And maybe I should rethink, you know, how I talk or how I act. Maybe, you know, and I'll give you an example too. You know, there's people in the web design world, and I meet all kinds of people. I've told you about people that, you know are against racism, they're against sexism, they're against things like this, but they won't speak out. And I know other people who are very vocal about it. But I also know people that would probably say, you know, they would probably never identify themselves as a racist. Or they would, you know, probably tell you, like, I'm not prejudiced. But I've heard these people, I've seen these people put stuff on social media, like joking about Black Lives Matter, like it's a joke. I've seen people, you know, say, why are these people shutting down the freeway? We should just run them over. Or, you know, making different, like, little jokes about Black Lives Matter. A good example, WP Tavern is a big blog in the WordPress space. And they did an article, I won't mention it, but, you know, it's just things like that. It's, why do other things like Indigenous people's rights, Native American rights, Black Lives Matter, you know, things like this don't get any coverage, but like other things that are very, make other people feel fearful, you know, minorities, that gays and black people and Native Americans and Hispanics, you know, these are part of the global web design market too, and part of this WordPress community. And anyway, there was this article that basically was saying, basically, I saw it as a big middle finger to these people. And I don't know. Again, that's another thing where people are just really weird. I've heard people say, what about this guy that got all this stuff? He was using the hard R N-word on social media, but hey, he raised a bunch of money for charity. We should just, forgive him. It's no big deal. Well, it is a big deal. It is a big deal, and I've seen a lot of people that, like I said, when I was a young kid, I probably wouldn't have thought that I was racist either, but, I did. I said a lot of racist things. I used racist words and, told racist jokes, but I changed, and that's what I want to put out there today. People can change, but sometimes they need someone that they look up to, or someone that they know personally, someone in their family maybe, to stand up and say, hey, that's not really okay. Don't use words like that. Don't say things like that. It's not cool. And, maybe people should say more of that. That's really all I have to say today, I'll be back to SEO and marketing and stuff like that tomorrow. And hey, if this offends you, if this video, if you think I'm being too politically correct, or if you think I'm a social justice warrior, then feel free to unsubscribe. No hard feelings. But I felt, this is something that's on my mind a lot. And like I said, I think it's important every once in a while to speak on these things, because these are real things. And, web design and web development, I guess that's cool, but, there's a lot of things that don't matter. That's it. I'll be back tomorrow with a new video.